Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks, where we drink coffee and celebrate diverse directors. I'm Celeste.
Mackenzie.
Kenzie, tell them what you're drinking today.
So luckily we went and got all the caffeine today. We went to Badass Coffee of Hawaii first,
Mm-hmm.
and I still love the sign that they had that
Uh,
their espresso machines were down. And so they
right.
only had cold brew, blended coffee, tea, and smoothies because somebody forgot the O in smoothie.
Oh, calling them out. And then oh my gosh, I feel bad. I feel like we're bashing on them, but I hated my drink. So then we had to make a trip to Starbucks, which is where I got my matcha.
Yeah, but we've already discussed this. You hated your drink because you don't like iced coffee.
True.
So I don't think it's really on them. You should give them another chance. You liked it the first time we went.
Yes, back when they had an espresso machine that worked.
Okay, I'll make sure to call ahead next time. What movie are we doing today?
Today we are doing Jojo Rabbit, which is I'm panicking when it comes to the name, even though we just watched a video on how to pronounce his name correct, which is directed by Taika Waititi. I think that's how the video told us.
That's what I remember. So the movie itself is an hour and 48 minutes. It was released in November of 2019, and its budget was $14 million, and it grossed $90 million worldwide. Do you want to go ahead and get into the awards?
Wowza. So it won one Academy Award, which was Best Adapted Screenplay. And then it also had nominations for Best Performance, for Supporting Role was for Scarlett Johansson, and Best Achievement in Costume Design, which was for Maze C. Rubio, I want to say. And yeah, so Kenzie, you said this morning was the first time you saw JoJo Rabbit.
It was. I remembered that we were recording and realized I had not had time all week long to watch it. So, in my very hungover state, I watched it on my couch because I was wide awake at 5 o'clock in the morning for no reason whatsoever.
Oh, that's terrible. I actually saw it when it came out in theaters. And I specifically remember it was a weekday and I went into work. And then, like, minutes later, I decided I didn't want to be there. I took a sick day. And so I'm like, what's movies? And I saw Jojo Rabbit. Why'd I go to watch it? I'm so excited. So I've loved this movie ever since.
Oh my gosh. If there's any reason to play hooky, let's see. So 2019, we weren't working at Starbucks anymore, right? Was it when you were working at Best Western?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I was at a call center. So I'm like, yep, I don't want to be here.
That's too funny. I wish I had, the guts to do that. I feel bad all the time.
Oh, yeah. I used to feel bad. And then I was like, actually, no, I don't. F that. I'll be fine.
See, and I'm taking my dad to the VA on Tuesday, so I'm taking a sick day, and it's been like such a hectic 2 weeks. So I'm just like, I need some time. But still, part of me is like, ooh, what if they need me? What if I'm not doing what I should be doing?
Take the sick days. Take the holidays. Take the sick days when you're not sick. Take all the PTO.
That is a PSA from Celeste.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and get into the ratings. Did you want to go ahead and do the 10 out of 10?
Yep, let's go ahead. All right. So the 10 out of 10 rating says, just watch it and see for yourself. My opinion, it was hilarious and heartfelt.
Yeah.
The acting was superb. The story was thought-provoking. It was funny at times and heartbreaking at times. I'm a huge fan of What We Do in the Shadows, and I'm a huge fan of Jojo Rabbit. Go support this film in the theater so more films like this can be made. I can't wait to see what Taika Waititi does next. P.S. I'm a Jew. Prayer hand.
Alrighty. And then the 1 out of 10 rating. The trailer for the film could not be more misleading. It represents the film as a bright, brilliant, laugh-a-minute, over-the-top, farce-like extravaganza. It's not. It drags. Oh, does it drag? It virtually stops dead in its tracks. Scenes that should be 2 to 3 minutes go on and on. Characters and situations that are funny are few and far between. My problem, unlike other reviewers here, is not the subject matter. Sure, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but whether or not you feel the subject is film worthy, this is a dead film, as was the audience at my screening. All right, so some of the cast that I forgot to go over, which is a stellar cast, very well known. We've got, well, the lead is their children. I think pretty new. So Jojo's played by Roman Griffin. Elsa is Thomasin McKenzie. And then we got, Scarlett Johansson, Taika Waititi is in it. And you got Sam Rockwell, Rebel Wilson, who's hilarious. Alfie Allen, which I know you haven't seen Game of Thrones, Kenzie, but he was a main character. But yeah, so that's some of the cast that we've got.
I thoroughly did love this cast. I thought it was great, and then, of course, when I saw Taika Waititi in it, he plays it with so much whimsy. I love his acting choices.
Well, I don't think I've seen his other work other than the Thor movie. And I think he adds himself in those movies also. I think he plays like a rock character, like a rock man, literally a rock. But yeah, so I love this. I already gave it away, but
He was in Free Guy. He was the guy who bought them out in Free Guy and is the villain. I thought he looked familiar.
I watched Free Guy and I don't remember him in it.
Yeah, he's the I can't remember his character's name, but he's the guy who owns the company and has, stolen the trademark and, like, the system from, you know, Steve the Hare Harrington and whatever her name is.
What We Do in the Shadows. I didn't watch them.
That'll have to be one of our next movies. I do have to say at the top, all of the accent work in this is awful.
I think it was meant to be awful. I think that was intentional. There's a lot that goes on in this movie. You're just like, what the fudge?
I did thoroughly enjoy it.
Alrighty. So, opening scene, we have a little boy who is the lead, Roman Davis, putting on a uniform and giving himself a pep talk in front of the mirror. Jojo Betzler, 10 years old. Today you're joining the ranks. I don't know what it's called. The ranks of what? But today you are joining the ranks in a very special training weekend. I swear to devote all my energies and strength to the savior of our country, Adolf Hitler. A man appears and joins in on hyping up Jojo. What is your body? Wolf body. What is your soul? A German soul. Jojo says, Adolf, I don't think I can do that. We see the man is Jojo's imaginary friend, of course, who happens to be Hitler. The most disturbing blue contacts, who is played by Serena's contacts, just got me so off guard. They reminded me of, those filters where people can change the color of their eyes, but it looks so disturbing and almost like alien.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice.
I didn't see it. No, it's so in your face. It touches you. Right when you must have been really tired.
It was 5 o'clock in the morning and I was hungover, so
That's probably it. Okay. So they shout the Nazi salute for a couple of minutes, and then we have a scene change to Jojo running outside his home and down the street while giving the Nazi salute ecstatically to everyone he sees. Throughout this scene, it goes into the intro credits, and there are black and white clips of crowds cheering at a parade, which appears to be for Hitler. Jojo meets up with another little boy who is Yorkie, played by Archie Yates, and they salute each other. Jojo goes, "Are you ready for the best weekend ever?" Yorkie goes, "Yes, I am." And they run off.
you missed that the song that goes over the title is a Beatles song and it's in German.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was a song, but I didn't know it was.
Yeah, and then at the end, they do a David Bowie song, and it's also in German.
That I did. Yeah. That I did know. I'm not a Beatles person, so
That is okay. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I know lots of Beatles songs. When I was in high school, we did an entire concert of Beatles songs for choir. So I know lots of Beatles songs. And Across the Universe was one of my favorite movies in high school.
I remember Across the Universe because my mom did. She loved the movie. I do. Alright, and then we got another scene change to a bunch of little boys in uniforms running in a forest. We are then introduced to Captain Clensendor, aka Captain K, who is played by Sam Rockwell, welcoming a shiz ton of kids to this Hitler training weekend. He introduces Officer Finkel, who is played by Alfie Allen, and Frolian Rum, I'm probably mispronouncing that, I'm sorry, played by Rebel Wilson. He says the reason he's here with a bunch of titty grabbers instead of leading his men to war is because he lost his eye and proceeds to show off his shooting skills while shooting random things.
I'll say I saw Sam Rockwell's name come up on the screen and I was like, I know that name. How do I know that name? And then I saw Sam Rockwell and I was like, oh, that's Sam Rockwell. I do love him in most of the movies that I've seen him, except for I hated the movie Mr. Right.
I saw it only for Sam Rockwell. And yeah, I didn't care for it.
See, and I watched that movie for Anna Kendrick.
I watched it as like a background movie.
Doesn't say that movie is awful, but I do love Sam Rockwell. He will never age. I don't understand. He just doesn't age.
Look the same forever. Alrighty. So he tells them over the next 2 days that we'll get to experience some of the things the German army goes throughout every day. And that even though there really isn't much hope in winning this war, but that they're doing just fine, apparently. Then, of course, there's awkward silence.
I think that's the other really funny thing about this movie is like this movie is pure satire and what they do throughout the entire movie is, oh no, we're losing, but we're gonna win. We got this.
And then all of these children are given daggers, apparently. He tells them that the boys will be involved in grenade throwing, map reading, ambush techniques, blowing stuff up, etc. Everyone cheers, while the girls will practice important womanly duties such as dressing wounds, making beds, and learning how to get pregnant. And then, of course, there's silent and groan.
And then Rebel Wilson, you must have many German babies.
Wilson's character goes, that's for Germany.
Speaking of accent work, because Rebel Wilson's Australian, like her doing a German accent is just so funny. Oh my God.
They break off to do their activities and everyone goes batshit. We see scenes of children climbing ropes and practicing the swastika symbol with their bodies.
My God, it was so funny. I love how like they're constantly going from one direction to the next direction and getting lost.
Oh my gosh, it's killer. Yep, so they're doing all that shit, playing tug of war with gas masks, etc. And then they end the night by burning books. We have a scene change, sort of ish, to Jojo and Yorkie in a tent at night. And Jojo was telling Yorkie if he ever saw a Jew, he'd kill it with his dagger. Yorkie asks, how would you know if you ever saw one? They look just like us. Jojo says he'd fill its head for horns, and they smell like Brussels sprouts, so that's how he'd know. Yorkie goes, oh yeah, I forgot about the Brussels sprouts part.
Forgot to mention there's an epic scene of Rebel Wilson drawing boards
of what a Jew would look like, I guess. And what the heck did that look like?
So it had like horns.
I think it had scales, maybe, and yeah, all that. Yep.
It was so funny.
Oh gosh. And then let's see. A scene changed to the next day. They're all in a forest, and the children are being asked by, well, it looks like just a little children that are just a little older if they will have the strength to end a life. All the children say yes. They call out Jojo and hand him a rabbit. They tell him to kill it. They began chanting, kill, kill, kill. Jojo, in a panic, decides to attempt to set the rabbit free, but then the rabbit just sits there and goes nowhere. And then one of the older boys grabs it and breaks its neck, unfortunately.
I really thought that Jojo was gonna just take off running with this rabbit,
Oh,
and then when he just set it down and was, like, trying to scooch it away, I was like, "Oh, boy."
it's, oh gosh. Alrighty. And so then they tell him he's a coward, just like his father. They begin making fun of him. And that's when they give him the nickname Jojo Rabbit. Jojo runs away. He's sitting down, and his imaginary friend Hitler appears again to ask him what's wrong. Jojo tells him what happened and apologizes to Hitler. He tells him people used to say a lot of nasty things about him. Look at that psycho. He's going to get us all killed. Except Jojo the rabbit is not a coward and shares uplifting words with him. Yorkie comes to check on Jojo. Jojo tells him it's time to show them all who's the real cowardly rabbit, and then runs off shouting, Jojo Rabbit, alongside Hitler, cheering him on. And then
They're just, like, running, and he's just so emphatic, he's just so excited. Ugh.
so then we come upon Captain K, informing a group of boys that they're going to be throwing grenades today, and that he's going to oversee all of that, so that way no one blows their eyes out. He asks who's going to go first. Jojo approaching, still running and shouting, he grabs the grenade from Captain K's hand and runs off with it. He throws it, but it hits a tree and bounces back and blows him up.
Ugh. This is also a callback to earlier after they got their knives, and they're practicing with their knives, and they're throwing it at tree chunks, and the one just, like, launches back at him and stabs him in the leg, and he's like,
I think it was Yorkie who threw it at something, and it bounces and stabs another kid. Okay, so of course, naturally, he ends up in the hospital, where we're first introduced to his mother, who's played by Scarlett Johansson. And then we have a scene change to Jojo in his room, looking at his nearly scarred face when his mom walks in matching pajamas, by the way.
that I did notice, and I was like, "This is interesting." But I will say, of all the accents, she had the best one in this entire movie. She had the best German accent, and then,
She's beautiful. And she's so freaking talented. Yeah. Beauty, talent. Yeah. So they're in matching PJs, and she tells him how much she missed her little cub. And then the two of them are all of a sudden they're dressed to leave, ready to leave the house. And Rosie, who's his mom, is still tying Jojo's shoes. So she's tying his shoes, getting him ready to go. When Jojo says he doesn't want to leave the house because he looks stupid, Rosie tells him to enjoy the attention because not everyone is lucky enough to look stupid. That she is cursed looking incredibly attractive, which is true.
yeah, I'm sure every 10-year-old wants to know that. So, since you and I both have stupidly young moms, I don't know if you got this all the time, like, when I was growing up, like, by the time I was 13, everybody thought that my mom was my older sister, and there would and everybody likes to hit on my mom in front of me, and I'm like, "This is awkward."
Not fun. And then, all right, so we've got a scene change to them walking into an office meeting with Captain K. Rosie then kicks him and tells him it's his fault that her son has a messed up face and a crooked walk or something like that.
She doesn't just kick him. She knees him and he collapses to the ground, and she threatens to kill him if anything happens again.
Pretty much. And then she tells him that he's going to watch JoJo while she's at work and make sure that he feels included and gives him something to do. Rebel Wilson's character suggests that they need someone to walk the clones. And then we see a bunch of cloned kids in a corner. She also suggests handing out new propaganda.
Having just found a lost dog and had to put up flyers, the way that he goes and puts up propaganda, like, he has, like, a bucket and he, like, paints the glue on, so much more effective.
And then we've got another scene change to JoJo putting up the new propaganda around town. Him and Rosie come to a stop when they see 5 people who had been hung. JoJo asks what they did. She said they did what they could. And then we have another scene change to JoJo arriving home. JoJo hears a noise upstairs and goes to investigate in a girl's room. And so I think soon after that, it's implied that it's his sisters who passed away previously. He sees like a little scratch on the floor and sees that the wall opens up. He goes in and finds a girl. He screams and runs downstairs. The girl comes down, and Jojo learns that she is a Jew. She threatens to tell on him and his mom if he mentions this to anyone. He runs to his room, and once again, Hitler appears. Hitler asks how she got control. Jojo says, mind control, of course. But Jojo and Hitler go back and forth on how to deal with the new Jew girl. They contemplate negotiating and reverse psychology.
It's so funny.
We could have sort of seen change. It's nighttime, and Jojo is sitting on the couch waiting for his mom to return. Rosie walks in, surprised to still see him awake. He tells her he heard something upstairs. Rosie tries to blame it on rats and tells him to stay away from upstairs. And then later on, she puts him to bed and goes to see the little girl on the wall. She warns her she needs to be more quiet and that essentially she'll have to pick her son for her if it comes to it. The little girl says she's essentially a ghost and that she's not living anymore. Rosie tells her as long as there's someone alive, then that they did not get her today and she needs to make tomorrow the same. We got a scene change to an indoor swimming pool and Jojo getting very aggressively stretched by Rebel Wilson's character, which I'm assuming is like physical therapy.
Yeah. It's great because she's, nope, nope, you got to keep coming back. You got to keep coming back. And I'm going to recommend that you not go to school for a month because your face will scare everybody. Which, I mean, he's got a little bit of scarring, but it's not anything. Like, it's barely any scar.
A little, it looks like a little, yeah, pretty much. And then we have Jojo who approaches Captain K and Officer Finkel, which clearly looks like they're an item.
Gosh, I thought the same thing.
They ask him, how's the leg? Jojo says, it only 80% hurts. And Jojo asks, oh, what the boys are doing, because there's a group of kids that walk in uniform with some sort of packs. Captain K tells them that they're doing water warfare training in case they ever need to go to battle in the swimming pool.
So what's also hilarious about Sam Rockwell's character is every time that we see him, he's constantly being this is another example of him being demoted from the last job.
I love it, love it. And then you see just all the boys jump into the pool and clearly they're drowning. Jojo asks them what to do if he were to ever see a Jew. Captain K tells him what the process would be and that ultimately it would end up with a lot of people killed because these are very paranoid times. Jojo asks even if the Jew hypnotizes someone to make them hide the Jew. That's when Rebel Wilson's character comes in, joins the conversation, and she says, it can happen. It's happened to my uncle. A Jew hypnotized him, and he became a massive drunk and gambler, and he cheated on his wife and had an inappropriate relationship with my sister. I think he drowned in an unrelated accident, but it was still the Jew's fault.
I love that part. And what's even better is that Rebel Wilson is such like a genius at physical comedy. So she's just like slowly inching herself across the bench to come closer to the conversation.
Okay. She then asks Jojo if he saw a Jew. He tells her for sure if he'd even recognize one. Captain K says he wouldn't be able to recognize one either and that someone should really write a book on the subject. We then have another scene change to Jojo back home, knocking on the wall for the girl. She comes out and tells her he has conditions for allowing her to stay. He wants her to tell him everything about her and everything about the Jewish race. She goes, okay, we're like you, but we're human. Jojo tells her to take it seriously. He tells her to think of it as an expose revealing all of their secrets. She began giving him stupid, sarcastic answers, which of course he believes. She tells him that his mother managed to find her food and that she's kind and she treats her like a proper person. Jojo tells her she's not. And that is when Elsa, I don't know if she's introduced her name yet, but that is her name. Elsa asks him if he is. Jojo stands up and says, how dare you, Jew, and continues degrading her. She ends up putting him in a chokehold and shows him who the actual weak one is. We've got a sort of scene change to downstairs, and we see Rosie burning a piece of paper in the fireplace. Then it's night, and the two of them are at the dinner table. Jojo asks why she's so happy. And that is, of course, to his mom, Rosie. As she says, things are changing. The Allies are taking Italy, France will be next, and soon the war will be over. Jojo slams his hands on the table and shouts, "Damn it, you hate your country that much?" And she says she loves her country. It's the war that she hates. Jojo continues shouting that they will crush their enemies and so on and so on. She says no more politics at the table and that they should eat. Jojo says, "You're not eating?" She claims she's not hungry. Jojo says he's especially hungry and will eat hers so it doesn't go to waste.
This is where we really learn that Scarlett Johansson is an excellent actress, because then, she thinks that he's acting out because he misses his father, and so she goes ahead and she goes and puts on his father's jacket, and then she goes Yep. I love that she goes to the fireplace, she grabs some soot, she wipes it on her face to create a beard, essentially, and then plays both the role of her and his father.
So then we're on to the next day. Jojo asks Elsa to give him some more background info on Jews, such as where the queen Jew lays her eggs. Elsa goes on to tell him about her fiance, Nathan, and about a famous poet. Let's say that. Okay. Jojo decides to write a letter impersonating Elsa's fiance, Nathan, telling her he found someone else to do the tongue kisses with and that he no longer wants to marry her. And then he recites that famous poet's one of his poems. And then Elsa goes back into the wall and begins to cry. Jojo then feels bad and tells her he forgot to tell her about the second letter from Nathan. It says he changed his mind and he doesn't want her to kill herself over him. Thank God she's been taken care of by that remarkable young man and wise beyond his years. She comes out and tells him about all the famous people who happen to be Jewish. Jojo in disbelief, especially when she mentions Houdini. And then we have another scene change to Rosie and Jojo outdoors I believe it's like by a stream, maybe. And she talks about romance and how love is the strongest thing in the world. We see them being playful together and lighthearted. Hitler, who in the distance is apparently spying on them and does not like what he sees. While walking, Rosie tells Jojo he's growing up way too fast and that they need to celebrate life and dance. She begins dancing, and we happen to get a close-up of her feet. They get on bikes and ride off home. A truck of wounded soldiers drive by, and Rosie shouts out, "Welcome home, boys. Now go home and kiss your mothers." Another scene change when Jojo comes back to the house, and he's talking to Elsa again. And he's basically just asking for more information, and she begins making up stories about the Jewish people for Jojo's book. We then begin to see Jojo become fascinated by Elsa. Jojo goes back to his room, and him and Hitler get into an argument about him spending too much time with Elsa. Hitler yells at him to not let her boss his German brain around and to share his book with the world. We then see Rosie in the wall with Elsa later on, talking about Inga. Rosie tells her that she reminds her of her daughter and that she would have loved to see her grow into a woman, but now she gets to watch her instead. Elsa asks her how to be a woman. Rosie tells her to drink champagne, drive a car, go to Morocco and take up lovers, look a tiger in the eye, and to trust without fear.
So sweet. What is funny is that so Elsa's staying in Ingrid's room in the wall, and we see pictures of Ingrid, and they do look, I'm pretty sure they're the same person.
I think at one point it was mentioned that they were friends. Yes, because she says she remembers Jojo when he was little. And then we have another scene change to Captain K in the office telling Officer Finkel, they're getting into kind of like an argument that he meant they needed actual dogs, not German shepherds. So we come in to these older men who are clearly shepherd, and they have
Like
German
furs on them. And he's like, "No, I needed German shepherds for the hunt. I don't need shepherds who are German."
Of course, he apologizes to him. He's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. You're doing a good job." Oh, goodness. So Jojo comes in and tells them about his book, which is called, I thought it was called You Who Jew, but the end, I saw the cover and I think it was something completely.
It's supposed to be a play off of the Beatles song "Hey Jude."
That makes more sense. And then we've got Captain K showing him, he like decides to show him a drawing of this ridiculously colorful battle suit.
It looks like something out of The Village People, you know, or like Freddie Mercury.
It's extravagant. There's a lot going on. Oh my gosh. So he shows him that. They they end up sending Jojo out in a tin costume to collect metal for Hitler. Is that what it was?
I just saw like a robot, and what's funny is like there's nobody left on the streets and only children in these robot tin costumes.
Collecting metal for Hitler, apparently. He ends up seeing his mom leave a note on a bench and walk away. Jojo ends up running into Yorkie and sees he's a soldier at only 11 whose uniform is made up of paper. I'm sorry, paper like, Yorkie corrects him. Jojo then tells Yorkie he caught a real Jew. Yorkie tells him that they found a bunch in the forest and doesn't get what all the fuss is about. Oh gosh. Um, and then he says that he has to go and he runs off. We end up having a scene change to Jojo back home, who decides to give Elsa some colored pencils to draw, it looks like. Elsa then tells him that he's not a Nazi. Jojo lets her take a bath, and while he waits outside, discovers that he has the butterflies for Elsa.
This is important because earlier, Scarlett Johansson, Rosie's character, she had told him that in order for him to love, he would feel the butterflies and the stuff.
And then, all right, and then we've got there's a sudden knock at the door, and Jojo opens to a group of men, which for the life of me, I couldn't understand what the name of their group was. They were there for a surprise inspection. That's all we need to know. But it's played by Gabriel Andrew. I don't know if you recognized him, like randomly in everything. And he's one of those that just randomly pops up in like everything. But anyway, I did recognize him, but I cannot pinpoint what he was in. Anyways, he's a pretty funny guy. But they're there to do a surprise inspection. The men come in and begin raiding the home. Captain K and Officer Finkel unexpectedly show up to supposedly drop off pamphlets for Jojo Bloom. I believe that's the main guy's name. It says that they are there for a routine check-in to search for any communists. So as they're like raiding the house and looking in his room, he says that they may have heard rumors that Hitler only has one ball, but that's nonsense. He actually has four. And them to know that.
That sounds like the most like ridiculous men stuff trying to prove how like masculine they are. They're like, two is not enough. I have to have four.
And he ends up asking Jojo about his mother's whereabouts and where his missing knife is. Elsa then appears and shows them that she has it. She claims to be Jojo's sister Inga. They begin looking throughout Inga's room and ask her for her papers. That's when Captain K takes her papers and starts asking her questions, ending with her age. He says that she's correct. They end up getting distracted by the book that Jojo made. It's a very intense scene, but fortunately they get distracted by the book and that he made about the Jews, and they begin to make fun and mock. They leave, and Captain K tells Inga it was nice to meet her, and he tells Jojo to look after his family. After they leave, Elsa tells Jojo that she ended up getting the birth date wrong. She says they'll probably be back. And Jojo ends up telling her that he's going to tell his mom everything. And when she gets home, he'll tell her everything and that they're friends. Elsa tells him Jews and Nazis cannot be friends. Hitler appears to appears to Jojo in the kitchen and questions Jojo's loyalty and tells him to get his shit together. That he's 10. I think that was mentioned. He's like, you're 10 years old. Get your shit together.
Goes right hand in hand with the four balls. Like, of course, you're a young man now. You must not let this get in your way.
And then we have another scene change to Jojo walking in the streets on a cloudy day with a basket, which I'm assuming is probably looking for food. He ends up seeing a blue butterfly and begins to follow it. When he stands up, we see him standing next to Rosie's shoes, whose body has been hung. Jojo turns and sees the shoes immediately and recognizes them and recognizes that they're his mother's. He hugs them and, of course, breaks down. He then ties her shoelaces for her and he sits with her body for a while. When I tell you this movie's like an emotional roller coaster, it really was.
That's how you know that it's good, though, when it gets you to feel things, you know?
All the imaginary BFFs that are Hitler.
Luckily, this movie is satire, so it's meant to be a complete joke and that it's making fun of Nazis and Hitler, so nobody come at us.
Yeah. All right. And then we have a scene change to Jojo coming back home. He's walking into the room with a knife, clearly to stab Elsa. He tries, but Elsa stops him. Jojo falls on the floor crying, and Elsa goes to sit with him. It's night, and Jojo and Elsa are at the window talking about his mom. Elsa tells Jojo about the last time she saw her parents. He asks her what's the first thing she'll do when she's free. We have another scene change of Jojo walking down the streets of Rubble, looking for food. And then we also have scenes of him and Elsa at home spending time together. We've got another scene change to Jojo outside, and bombs and gunfire start going off nearby. Everyone begins running, and Jojo sees Yorkie. Yorkie shouts for Jojo and accidentally shoots a rocket he's carrying at a building.
Yorkie is hilarious. He's kind of just meant to be like this bumbling goof, you know?
Oh my god. I think at one point he says, I think I'm just a little kid in a fat boy's body.
And then, yeah,
When he's like, I was your unless you're Hitler in a little fat boy's body.
I'm just a little kid in a frat boy's body.
Oh gosh, I'm dead. Yorkie then just goes, oh god. He tells him, he tells Jojo that he's sorry about his mama and that he cried for ages when he heard what happened. He says the whole world is coming and they're doing terrible. Jojo tells him the Jew he found is basically his girlfriend now. Yorkie says, good for you, Jojo, a girlfriend. Meanwhile, there's all this crap going on around them. People are being blown up and shot at. They continue talking about apparently Russians are screwing dogs and how Hitler blew his brains out when a tank appears and they begin they run off screaming. When I keep there's like random like snippets of what the F. This is one of them.
Just to show like the change in
So quickly, so easily, just flip. Yep. Oh gosh. So yeah, so a tank appears, blowing everything up. They run off screaming. They come by Rebel Wilson's character. She decides to give them guns and to just shoot at anyone who doesn't look like them. I love this thing. And I love how she puts a coat on Jojo and is put this on so they know not to shoot at you.
yeah, and then she takes I think a rocket launcher and then goes around the corner and then all of a sudden all you see is it blow up and that is RIP on Rebel Wilson.
Oh gosh, and then we have scenes of Jojo looking around at all the children soldiers and the random. At one point, there's a scene of all the random German Shepherd men that were together in battle. Everyone's dying, he's just dying around him. So he decides to run and hide. Eventually, the battle dies out, and Jojo comes out from hiding. We see soldiers from other countries rounding up the German soldiers. See when Jojo gets taken with the rest of the captured men because he's wearing the stupid jacket. Thank you, Rebel Wilson.
No, but it's good because then we have a somewhat redeemable moment for Sam Rockwell's character.
So then he sees, with the captured men, he sees Captain K, and he tells Jojo to not be scared and that he was truly sorry about what happened to his mom, that she was a really good person. He stands Jojo up and tells him to go look after his sister. That's when Captain K rips off the German jacket and starts yelling at him to get away, Jew. So then the soldiers are convinced that he's a Jew and they take him away. Then hear them execute the German soldiers, Captain K included. And then, of course, he's redeemed in our eyes.
And but at least he recognized, and I think the idea of "go take care of your sister," quote unquote, is them saying, "We knew that she wasn't your sister and we wanted to keep her safe." So in all honesty, maybe he was getting demoted on purpose, because he didn't want to be a Nazi anymore, but he couldn't come out and say that because then he would be executed. So who knows?
And then Jojo runs away and he sees Yorkie again, sitting down. Jojo tells him he thought he was dead. Yorkie tells him, seems like they can never die.
That is such an 11-year-old mentality. I can't die.
I'm going to go home to mother. I need a cuddle. I feel like I say this like all the time. Like this is a line that stays with me. I'm going to go home.
I think I'm gonna start saying it. I mean, most of the time I think I just say I need a hug, but a cuddle is just sweeter. It's so cute.
Oh, God. And then he says, now that the war is over, his girlfriend is free now to leave. Jojo then runs home to Elsa to tell her that he runs home. And then Elsa asks Jojo, what's happening. Jojo tells him that she can't leave and that Germany won the war. So then later on, Elsa reveals to Jojo that her fiance Nathan died, and Jojo decides to confess his love.
It was actually very sweet. Do we know how old Elsa's supposed to be? I gathered like 17 or 18. Yeah, something like that. And of course, like we know that JoJo's 10, reiterated a lot. But I think it's so sweet. He's just, I have a crush on you. And I know that you can't actually love me because you're so much older than I am. Like he actually says, you're so old. But
It was sweet. Yeah. And then he ends up telling her to get her things together because they're leaving. Hitler then later on appears to him one last time, I think it's in the kitchen, and tells him it'll never work out with Elsa because she's too old and he's ugly. And at this point, Hitler's all beat up with, I'm pretty sure, a bullet in his brain at that point. And then that is when Jojo tells him to fuck off and kicks him out of his window.
see, and what I also like about his manifestation of Hitler is like it really shows you how mean somebody's internal dialogue can be because throughout the entire movie, Hitler just keeps telling him that he's ugly and he feels like everybody's telling him that he's ugly, but he's really not. He's an adorable little kid.
And then him and Elsa end up walking out of the house, and she sees that Germany actually lost the war. And she walks up to Jojo and slaps him in the face because, of course, well deserved. Yeah, it's like asks her, "What do we do now?" And it ends by them dancing. So they begin to dance, and that's the end.
So, what
Oh,
did you think?
we already know I love this movie, but so of course I agree with the 10 out of 10.
I also agree with the 10 out of 10. Right, there's that.
That
Yeah, I am very confused by these 1 out of 10 ratings that we've been reading lately. I'm wondering if these people actually watch these movies.
You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like to me, at least for some. Yeah,
Getting distracted by Tiny over
she
there.
wanted to join in.
Yeah, she's very curious. Yes. So, I mean, I like this movie quite a bit too, and I will definitely be again sometime when I'm not hungover and tired. But it was such a cute movie. And yeah, it was a really good feel good movie. The acting is amazing in it. The humor is hilarious and it does get you every time. And once again,
They're incredibly off, but like it works for the movie. Yeah, this is definitely one of the movies that I can watch over and over again. Like every time I see that it's like on a new streaming service, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it because it does feel good. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch Moonrise Kingdom? Oh, okay. It has a very Moonrise Kingdom-esque to it, so I think you'd like that as well. And so you know what? I'll explain it to you some other time. It's a very simple but complex, like, movie where it's basically these 2 kids that are, like, 12 and 14, and they're outcasts, and they've decided that they've fallen in love and they wanna get married, and so one of them's a Boy Scout and the other one's just an outcast at her school or something like that. And so it's just the entire journey of, like, their relationship and getting quote unquote married by one of the Boy Scout troop leaders and stuff like that. And it's a movie with very, like, hijinks. It's very silly. Yep. Well, cool. So we hope that you all enjoyed this episode and that you continue to engage with us. You can follow us on Instagram at Caffeinated Flicks. And if you'd like to email us, you can at caffeinatedflix@gmail.com. And without further ado, I'll catch I don't know. I'm waiting on you. We'll catch you on the flick side.